So please bear with me if this seems confusing, but if you look at the trajectory at the bullet of the bullet, and you cross-reference that with the grassy knoll, then there's
No,
no way in hell that the
no,
whole JFK thing was a murder. It was a suicide. He had
no,
it planned out. And I
no. I
think he got there because the teachings of Socrates that I told you of
no, you
earlier
are
were the
way
meaning of
off.
what?
Way off, dude. No, you're way off. I still maintain it was Martians.
It
It
was
had to be
actually about
Martians.
ethics in games journalism.
We are off to an early start.
And on that note, we're set. Hello, people. Cheers.
Cheers. Ah,
So, how have you been?
oh, I've been great. I've been in game dev mode as you probably have as well.
I
Um,
definitely have, but you look more like you've been in a Justin Bieber versus Linkin Park music video.
dude, I'm totally in the zone for our awesome out of sight topic for today, man.
Bitchin'.
Bitchin',
I've played,
gnarly.
I've played Day of the Tentacle and I love Hoagie, so I'm well into the '90s lingo as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna try and see how much useless '90s lingo I can squeeze into this, which is also my thanks to my good friend Evil Donuts for this fabulous hat.
I'm
Which
a boy, you're a girl, this song will make you hurl. Or something like that.
I wish I could reach through the screen and just slap you.
Don't like the Diffmeister? You're loved.
Oh man, I am so glad he's not doing music anymore. I guess on that note, we should just probably roll the intro.
And boom, we're
Boom!
back.
Oh my god, my niece just went into view.
And that's when the backhoe exploded.
That's when the Martians exploded the backhoe.
Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, and if any of you cute listeners out there, I said cute, want to chime in on tonight's topic, please feel free to visit our IRC channel. I am not actually able to check the IRC channel today because guess what I just did last night? I decided to empty out my downloads folder. Guess what was in my downloads folder? My IRC client. So shit. I can't actually go on IRC at the moment, and I didn't feel like installing it.
I'm on IRC at the moment, and I'm explaining everyone why. No, he's not wearing pants.
As far as you know, I am wearing shorts.
And why you're smoking, which is, as far as I've understood, is mainly a temporary thing to cope with withdrawal from something that you would never even dream of touching. My God, what's wrong with you?
I would never. Also, this is I wear this hat all the time.
People who indulge in these substances should just be. Oh my God! Look at that.
Oh, foamy too. Yeah,
So, we're all about the '90s today, as you may have surmised, because we're going to talk about FMV games, interactive movies, or fail motion video games. As
I like that one. Fail motion video games. That's cute.
it is what many of us think of them, because FMV is kind of a hot potato, isn't it? Because well, let's just start it on a gentle note and say that not many FMV games were actually that good. And we're going to talk about some of those, and we're going to talk about some of the exceptions that were actually pretty fucking great. And we're going to attempt to juggle this hot potato and find out what the ins and outs of the genre are.
Now, you say hot potato. Now, at this point, it's kind of a cold last year's kind of sprouty potato, because no one is really doing FMV games these days. And when we say FMV games, we mean this huge CD-ROM explosion that happened in the mid to late 90s when CD-ROMs came out, and everyone was like, my God, we've got 700 megabytes to fill up. I wonder if we can, put full motion video on these. Yes, we can. Oh, suddenly it turns out that we have to pack the game on 6 or 7 CDs because all the full motion video we shot can't possibly fit onto one CD.
And we have to hire actors, and holy fuck, actors are expensive. Can we just, take one guy off the street and, put him in costume and put him on cam? Yes, we can.
Yeah, hey, Bill from the mailroom, would you like to play a soldier in the French army in 1912? Of course I would. Do you have a French accent? No.
And in some cases, they would actually, take a proper actor like Christopher Walken and put him in front of the camera, and he'd be like, "Hi, I'm Christopher Walken. I have no idea what I am doing. Is this a computer game? Oh, I'm used to movies." And
your Walken sucks.
What?
Your Walken sucks.
I know my Walken sucks, but my Renee Diff is pretty awesome.
That it is. But anyway, FMVs had this terrible malady attached to them because in the late 90s, game studios figured out that doing FMVs was kind of an expensive deal. Not only do you have to pay actors, you have to pay for the video equipment, the sound equipment. Shooting a movie is not. I mean, you can run out with a camcorder. You had camcorders in the 90s as well, but actually making that look somewhat acceptable on a computer screen was tricky, also because of technical limitations, because back in those days, video compression, I don't know if you guys are watching this on YouTube, you know what a hellish world video compression can be. Hi, Mom. But back in the 90s, my God, if you were to just move the camera slightly, or if you had someone animated like me and my fabulous moving hands here, those of you listening to the audio broadcast will just have to imagine me waving my hands around.
He's waving his hands around.
I do that a lot. But anyway, that would just totally bring any 386 and 486 or even a Pentium computer to a complete standstill. I'm looking at you, 11th hour.
You had like the resolution of a stamp. So, imagine a tiny little, obviously rectangle, but I can't do that area like this and then just with black all around it.
Right.
It seems that someone thought, well, people like watching movies. There's this adventure thing that people are into, which is, as we've discussed, kind of about immersing yourself into a story and, living the life of the main character. And I guess someone in some shitty marketing department thought, well, hey, we can have people play movies. And we can go for some, this was before, as far as I know, this was before 3D was effective enough to really be realistic. It's only recently that we've been able to create 3D that's detailed enough to achieve a certain level of photorealism. Essentially you could go for literally photorealistic by using photos and videos and stuff like that.
Right. Let's put this into a historical perspective, because you were kind of doing that already. But let's just rewind our clocks to let's say 1995 or 1996. CD-ROMs are now.
The Venga Boys have just hit. You're listening to "I'm Blue and I'm Gonna Beat Up a Guy." And
Bill and Ted were totally bodacious and refused to do the horns in the right way. They had to go like the thumb and the pinky kind of thing. But
and Trent Reznor was on drugs and wanted to fuck you like an animal.
That's the one. So what we have? You're absolutely right. Doom and Duke Nukem had come out, and this was as far as we'd gotten with 3D, really. So you still had, 3D games at this point were still using 2D sprites Quake was just coming out, but polygons and such were still nowhere near the sort of photorealism that we've come to expect from
the polygon count, titles. The polygon count was very, very low. I mean, if you remember when Tomb Raider came out and fucked the adventure game genre up the ass in the late 90s, people were. City schoolboys were just getting there, and I mean city with a Z, as they say in Britain, not one of those things that you live in. Were getting their panties in a twist over Lara Croft's triangular titties.
That's the one.
That was what we had back.
Also, you suck at 90s lingo. So anyway, what we do have is a Actually, I'm not quite sure. I'm going to subscribe to your notion that it was some asshole in marketing, because computer games were just about to really take off on this, steep incline towards who knows what kind of technological advancement we're going to achieve. I mean, computers were evolving daily. Technology was evolving at a massive rate. So you've already got in the early 90s, you've got the jump from 16-color EGA to 256-color VGA. And then around the time of 1993, 4, 5, or something like that, you get the jump to Super VGA, which is 640 by 480. And at that point, we've already seen certain companies, Access Software, for instance, start to use photorealistic representations of characters in games.
Well, Access are interesting because they did it even back at the late 80s. I mean,
Mean Streets, 1989.
What's the name of the first one? Mean Streets. Mean Streets had actual photos. Chris Jones was playing Tex Murphy already back then. And what they would also do is they would have literal speech files playing back over the PC speaker. So the PC speaker would actually do something that approximated a realistic recording of a voice.
That's true. And the sequel, Martian Memorandum, which I think is from 1992 or something, actually had, because Mean Street just had these still images of photorealistic people, sort of kind of, deluxe painted, kind of painted over and stuff. But they were real people in front of a camera. With the Martian Memorandum, they actually had people in front of a black screen, saying stuff to the protagonist. And these were like 5-second short video snips with terrible 8-bit low quality sound and such, but it was actually moving video on a disc game.
I find Access is kind of like the odd man out because again they were doing it before anybody else. And
but were they really? Because what they were doing were they were using digitized people in their games. They wanted to make interactive movies, a term that we will come back to in just a short while. Sierra were also using digitized actors, but they would paint over them. A technique known in the industry as rotoscoping.
Well, when is Mean Streets from? It's from '89 or something, isn't it?
Mean Streets is from '89, yes.
As far as I know, Sierra were only using rotoscoping by the time of like Space Quest 5. I mean, that's certainly the first record of it I've seen. They may have used it earlier, but they certainly weren't using it in '89. I don't think so, anyway.
I remember vividly that King's Quest 6, they spent an awful. I watched like this behind the scenes of King's Quest 6. They made an awful big deal of the fact that they had video captured people in front of a green screen and just painted over them to make it look like actual people who were doing stuff. And I think
they definitely did, but
they might have done that as far back as King's Quest 5, actually.
But that's still from 1991, I think. Anyway, over on the RSC channel, Amariat Akako is mentioning that Dynamics made a lot of games with digitized graphics way back when you still had EGA graphics.
Yeah, absolutely right.
Mentioning David Wolf, Secret Agent, and Die Hard. None of them have actually played.
Secret Agent. Now that was fun. That was it's not an adventure game, but it was an early. They used like still images of digitized actors as well, but exactly. Dynamics was good at
branching into other genres. Mortal Kombat also did it. The first.
There we go. Exactly.
Mortal Kombat is with all real actors photographed and filmed. And from Mortal Kombat 2 and onwards, they started rotoscoping, I think.
And Rise of the Triad used photorealistic enemies as enemy combatants, and this is this was an ongoing technological advancement. You were coming from having to draw stuff on the screen using deluxe paint and such, and you're going, okay, can we either simplify this process or make it more visually appealing? And the first thing that springs to someone's mind back in the early computer days, of course, is why don't we just take a picture of someone and use that? So from a picture to a video, that's a very logical step. Also, my headphones are seriously cramping my style here.
You look very, very authentically 90s. This was what we had to work with back then. I mean,
What you mean, like has
what
the
we
fellow
can see off screen would be buffalo shoes.
Exactly. Oh, that's terrible. So anyway, I don't think it was like this clever marketing decision. I actually think it was, designers going, right, let's try and push this medium, see how far we can get. The only things that were kind of in their way, I suppose, or kind of detrimental to the whole evolution was storage space, because you had the technology to take a picture and scan it in and use that in your game, but it would take up an abysmal amount of space. So that's
Well, you
when.
were on CD-ROMs back then, so it was 3 CDs at the least, I would argue, if you were to do an FMV game of reasonable length. And again, I must advertise Access as the prime movers, because they were actually one of the first companies that I know of to put out a DVD game. Overseer, the third FMV Tex Murphy game, came out on DVD-ROM, and it's nearly unplayable today. You have to go through so much late '90s technological bullshit to even remotely get it working.
You're
one
skipping,
of the first, not the first.
You're skipping so much ahead in the chronology. I was just getting to the end of the disc era, and then out comes the CD-ROMs, and I was just about to go into the Seventh Guest and Under a Killing Moon and stuff like that. And you jumped way ahead, like to the late '90s.
Haven't you seen Memento? This is a James Joyce, Ulysses, stream of consciousness kind of thing for me.
Yeah, right.
I will just ramble until the sand runs to the bottom of the time graph.
Right. This is just like one big ass like clusterfuck of stream of consciousness things, and let the viewers work this shit out for themselves. So anyway, I'm just gonna stay on my chronology, and you can just butt in whenever the hell you like.
Yeah, do it chronologically. Skip what I just said earlier. We're way back when.
We'll get to all of that. One buzzword that came out was in the let's say mid '90s, maybe like '94, '96, or something like that. The buzzword was an interactive movie. Sorry?
The buzzword was ethics.
No, you've already done that. Anyway, the buzzword was interactive movie. Instead of just playing a computer game that sounds so pedestrian, and it sounds back in the '90s, the stigma was the computer games was something that children toyed with, because now we've got Doom and shit like that. Children's toys. Just being facetious at this point. Anyway, at this point we go, all right, let's turn this into a mature medium. Let's prove that we can at least compete with big ass Hollywood productions. Let's show what this machine can actually do. And out comes CD-ROM, and suddenly every media company, every game developer in the world starts going, right, we're going to really, really show what we can do. And what happens? Well, they kind of forget the whole gameplay thing.
They do, because again, video takes up plenty of space. Ultimately leaving, I suppose, little space for actually having gameplay.
You would think there would be plenty of room for that, but what this does is turn game development into not just figuring out what comes after the other. And we're talking adventure games here. We're not talking like Resident Evil, which had some FMV in the first game. We're not talking Mortal Kombat. We're talking adventure games. And you're pretty used to being able to move your protagonist around, interact with people, talk to people, steal their shit, and then go on and solve this quest. And so you think, instead of a cutscene, instead of the standard Maniac Mansion, Dave the Tentacle style cutscene where the screen just turns into a letterbox, and you just these characters move independently of your control, and they do stuff like that. Instead of the game doing that, let's just play a video. And somewhere along the way, they got so enamored with this idea that the video cutscenes ended up being longer and longer, and the actual playtime got smaller and smaller.
Well, I do respect the idea that. In a way, this made it easier for designers to tell the story they were willing to tell. They didn't have to bother with, is this story suitable for interaction? I might be skipping ahead a bit, but a game like Gabriel Knight 2, it's a great story, and I like watching it unfold. were it not for all the museum walking.
No, but still, you've got a game like Gabriel Knight 2, which is arguably one of the best FMV adventure games out there.
Yeah, probably the best, in my opinion, aside from the text games, where I would say, let's get this out of the way immediately. The Pandora Directive is hands down the best FMV game I've ever played.
Oh, you warm my black heart by saying that, because I completely and totally, utterly agree. The Pandora Directive is a work of art.
Manages gameplay-wise to be a fantastic game, and it has some excellent acting, and again, this is really blowing smoke up the ass of everyone at Access. Now, Big Finish Games, because what they did was they actually, they weren't cheapskates. Sierra. No. Would hire. He is a great actor, by the way, but they would hire a little-known actor like Dean Erickson, who managed to do great. But he's not a name actor. He's been on a couple of episodes, Frasier, and since then he's developed a career as a motivational speaker. But Access would actually get in guys like Barry Corbin and John Agar, and names that will be very familiar to anyone who's into 1950s sci-fi, because those guys were big back then. I think Barry Corbin is, if I remember correctly, he's playing the lead role in the original Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
That wasn't Barry Corbin. That was the dude who plays Gordon Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, that's the other one whose name escapes me.
Fuck was his name? Anyway, that's not important. What you just said is absolutely right, of course. What really amazed me whenever I went out to pick up a Tex Murphy game, my first Tex Murphy game was Under a Killing Moon, and I go, wait, that's Lois Lane, isn't it? And that's the voice of Darth Vader, and you go, oh my god!
Under a Killing Moon was excellent because they got Margot Kidder and they got James Earl Jones. I mean, that I think out of those two, Margot is the one who doesn't really know what to do. I mean, she seems kind of lost.
We'll get to that.
She is Lois Lane, and I'll give her that.
But what I really loved about picking up a Tex Murphy game, once you get to Pandora Directive, once you get to Overseer and such, you go, oh my god, I remember this actor. I don't remember where he's from. I don't remember what he's been in, but that's the guy in it. And I absolutely love that. When I saw the dude who plays Gordon Fitzpatrick, can I could go on the IRC channel?
I'm going to look on the IRC channel. IRC channel, who plays Gordon Fitzpatrick?
What's his fucking name, dude? It's really killing me at this point because I used to know this shit by heart.
Dog is distracting. I'm gonna, until you tell me who plays Gordon Fitzpatrick, I'm gonna turn my laptop towards the clock here, and I'm watching the screen. See, this is distraction city right here.
Right. So while we're waiting for our IRC channel and our viewers to correct us for being absolute idiots, let's go on to what you were talking about, which is Access Software did it right. They remembered to put in an actual game, and they actually, the thing that amazes me when I play the Pandora Directive and Under Killing Moon to an extent is the sheer scope of it. It actually does feel like you're in a complete. Not even a movie. You're just on a complete timeline quest and such. So they really went the extra mile. Now contrast that to the sort of Macromedia director kind of stuff that Anatoly was on Squarewave's FM podcast talking about. Once Macromedia Director and QuickTime, Apple's QuickTime and such, once those became popular, and once it turned out that creating a first-person FMV kind of title where like node-based, like you're just looking around 90 degrees at a time, and then suddenly FMV games started becoming these sort of disposable kind of, let's just shove people in front of a green screen and stuff will happen.
Before we get to that, while I'm doing obscene gestures at you, Amariat Akago came to our rescue on the RSC channel. It was Kevin McCarthy.
Kevin McCarthy
plays Gordon Fitzpatrick, and he played the lead role in the Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Yes, he did. Fabulous actor, and he
got the Donald Sutherland, Leonard Nimoy version with the but the original one.
He did a fantastic job. He did such a good job.
He did.
In Pandora Directive, obviously, and obviously in Invasion of the Body Snatchers as well. Haven't actually seen the original. Not the point of this conversation.
No.
What Access did was fabulous, and then you get all these sort of knockoffs academy directed, because the progenitor for all this FMV nonsense is arguably the Seventh Guest, and the Seventh Guest, by my definition, is not an adventure game, but fuck that. That's a topic for
I haven't played it. I own it, but you know, judging from what I've seen of it, it looks more like a collection of cutscenes that you trigger via clicking.
It's not even that.
It's interesting. I had a professor when I was studying computer science who talked about this game a lot, and he was a kind of a retro dude. He was the kind of guy who had bought Northern Commander and was running it on his modern day laptop because he's gotten used to that. He refused to touch the Windows GUI, and he was royally pissed when he bought a laptop that came with a 64-bit system and he couldn't run Northern Commander, which is apparently a 16-bit program. So that's
you're talking Total Commander, which is the Windows version of Northern Commander. But yeah, I'm with you.
But the way he talked about this, the Seventh Guest, and this is something I brought up when we talked about Loom, is that these systems were obviously also great for showing off your new computer. You know, look at my double-speed CD-ROM drive. Look at my video card. Listen to my sound card. Look at what I can do with this shit.
Yeah, exactly.
So those games had that going forward, and I suppose that in that sense that you're kind of booting up something that is essentially a glorified demo, it makes sense that there would be as little interaction as possible. But if you care about gameplay, it's just a fucking shame. I mean, but again, this was before you could put on a DVD movie. You know, I was fucking my mind was fucking blown the first time I sat down to watch a DVD film on a computer.
See, what I heard was I was fucking my mom, and then I put on a DVD.
I was fucking my mom. And put on a DVD.
Rather not know what went on at your Christmas.
I didn't do that.
Anyway, you're absolutely right. This is kind of turning into part 2 of Did 3D Kill Adventure Gaming? And part 2 of this is, of course, Did FMV Kill Adventure Gaming? Sorry, what the fuck am I talking about? Because you're absolutely right. It does become, instead of focusing on the story and the progression and all the bits and pieces that we love, storytelling mainly, it becomes a kind of look what my shit can do. It becomes the dick waving contest all over again. And
this was what happened when the concept of the multimedia PC was making its way in. You know, it became a dick waving contest, and in some ways, with certain games, we're still there because I mean, this isn't strictly adventure, but some FPS games are just all about fucking railroading. And, you know, the graphics are beautiful. I mean, Jesus, fuck, it's like walking in a photography, but you're just being, you know, it's as if someone just holds your hand and guides you through this landscape.
Right.
So in some ways, the dick waving contest never left. You know, the indie scene has kind of moved on beyond that, but the AAA scene in some ways is still stuck there.
Oh yeah, and it totally, because the AAA scene was born in the mid '90s, and then it still goes on. And this is you know what I was going to say about the you know, current state of you know, games, the game sphere, is that the market has broadened. You no longer need publishers to tell you what type of games are in vogue and what types of games will sell and such. You can still make a tiny little game and a certain amount of people will play it. It's not a AAA game. This is cool. That means that the dick waving crowd has their kind of shit, and we've got our kind of shit over here.
They're all here waving their dicks, and we're all over here actually playing games.
Or whatever. I mean, I don't want to come off as an elitist asshole, but I am, so that's probably what's going to come out of my mouth. But anyway, the progenitor of all this FMV nonsense was arguably the Seventh Guest, and the Seventh Guest was a node-based walk around this mansion.
I just have to bring something up. Over on the RSC channel, Pete Tolman is present, and
Oh God, not that dude.
he is busy swinging his dick.
Oh good. Oh good. I'll bet he made some fucking knockoff of the Seventh Guest as well. A fucking loser.
Yeah,
Anyway,
guest.
So what most people saw was the best-selling CD-ROM game of all time, and at that current stage of development, the only CD-ROM title, but a CD-ROM title worthy enough of Bill Gates' attention, and it helped sell the CD-ROM media as viable and such. So everyone looks to the Seventh Guest and decides, right, we can do that. We just have to put characters, actors in front of a green screen and just walk around this environment, this 3D rendered environment, and then money will start rolling in. That's how you get like the Macromedia directors type of stuff. Yeah. I haven't actually played any of these Macromedia, Titanic, Out of Time, and whatever.
I was going to mention that we're going to get to it.
Journeyman Project, whatever the hell.
It'll soon be time for our second BSD Plays installment. And I've proposed that we do Blackout as the second one. And I'm not sure when we'll get to it, because I have a lot of shit coming up in my personal life, what with moving or moving, not.
Fucking your mom, whatever.
Yeah, and putting on a DVD. Anyway, Blackout is not a Macromedia director game, but it is a QuickTime game. And it's one of those experience games where it's mainly about listening to people talk and piecing together the story, but I would argue that it comes off fairly successfully. I'm dying if you agree.
Don't get me wrong. I didn't mean to say that every Macromedia director game out there is absolutely full of shit. I didn't mean that.
But the vast majority.
The vast majority is, and it was kind of an easy. All right, those guys did it, so why don't we do it? And truth be told, a lot of FMV games did turn into this sort of first-person, let's walk around nodes, and when you click on something, the actor walks over to the drawer, opens the drawer, looks inside, and then you get a close-up of the drawer, and then you click on an item inside the drawer, and then you get a video of the actor reaching into the drawer, picking the shit up, and that goes on for 6 and 7 CDs.
And exhaling and looking at it awkwardly. That's exactly. Gabriel Knight 2.
Exactly. There's a lot of extraneous bit, which is actually the point that I wanted to get to, because we are supposed to tell people how to do their job. And let's be fair, aside from Gabriel Knight 2 and the Pandora Directive and a couple of other games, I'm sure.
I will actually say that, before we get to this, you mentioned that no one today does FMV games. I would say that the guys at Big Finish, FMV-wise, did an excellent job with the Tesla effect. Let's get it out of the way. That game has shortcomings, and we agree on that, I know. We seem to disagree on how much those shortcomings affect our general, affection for the game. But full motion video-wise, Tesla Effect is a fucking good game.
I don't disagree with that one bit. It's fantastic, but it does. Have you noticed that every review of the Tesla Effect? Sorry, that was my beer. Every Tesla review effects. What the hell am I saying? Every review of Tesla Effect, thank you, came out and said, well, this is kind of good for a sort of throwback 90s kind of thing, even though it has like, what is it, 720p high def video running.
It actually has 2K, which is higher than
2K. You're right. It's fucking phenomenal, and it looks great, and it looks great in the same sense that.
It's higher than 1080p, which is a full HD resolution. Most digital cinemas today, short of IMAX, operate with 4K, I think. So basically, Tesla Effect features video in a resolution that's half of what you would experience in a digital cinema. And for a game, I think that's pretty fucking good.
It's amazing, and the video is great in the same sense that the video in Tex Murphy Overseer was not, because if you play the DVD, I actually got the DVD version of Overseer running. I had to fuck with it a lot.
I believe if it hasn't been stolen, I still have it lying around somewhere. But actually, if and this is a plug, if you go on GOG and buy it, way back in the day, you would get the CD-ROM version. But I think they've actually updated it, so nowadays you get the DVD-ROM version. I may be wrong, but this is what people on their forums have been saying.
That very well could be, because when you bought it on in the box, it came with a single DVD-ROM and 5 CD-ROMs,
Yeah.
and the CD-ROM version used the Smacker video compression. What that actually did was, well, it compressed the fuck out of the video, sure, but actually the characters in front of the green screen, and I want to get to the green screen bit in just a second, but all right, the characters in front of the green screen actually melded together with the pre-rendered backgrounds a lot better than they did on the DVD version, where you could clearly see, the lines around the characters, where the composite thing was, clipping and shit.
Over on the IRC channel, Amarietta Cargo just wrote Tesla review effect, and I love that. This coil is shit. It does not give off even half the electricity I wanted to give off. I give it 0 out of 5 pigeons.
What the fuck just got into? I'm just gonna put this hat on again. This is right.
Tesla bitches.
Yeah, bodacious.
Bodacious T.
That's me. I'm Bodacious T. How you doing? What the hell was I saying? All right, I was going to talk briefly about the green screen thing.
Green screen or blue screen, I think it was actually.
Blue screen. When they did Under Killing Moon, it was a black screen. They just put people in front of this black carpet and had them act out stuff.
Because they would, and this is the film historian in me showing up. They would do that way back in the 1930s. They would, if they had something they had to composite against a plate or something in the background, they would drape black velvet down in the back of it and shoot. I cannot imagine anyone. Why the fuck would someone in the 1990s use a black screen?
Actually, the joke is that when they did The Seventh Guest, they actually used a blue screen, but they were so shit at it that it created this wobbly effect around the characters. And then they went, wow, wait a minute, we just turned them transparent, and it looks like they're just sort of wobbly ghosts kind of figures. And they went, all right, that kind of works. So, but anyway, the whole green screen thing, like we were talking about, this was actually a result of technological deficiency. I'll call it, because
that is a very diplomatic term.
Yeah.
I would say shit, but technological deficiency is good. We can use that too.
We had I'm going to say like 90% of all FMV games I've played have the full motion video in front of a green or blue screen. And this is because you couldn't actually move the camera around, because moving the camera around would mean that the compression routine would just absolutely shit itself. So that's why on like in The Seventh Guest, you've got this locked off tripod, the camera on a tripod just filming the characters, and the camera doesn't move at all. In Under Killing Moon, they did this weird ass thing where all the actors were filmed separately, and once like when one character is talking, the other one is completely stationary. It's just like a cardboard cutout, and once it's his turn to speak his line, he comes to life, and the other character stops moving. Yeah.
Wow, Murphy.
and once you get to the Pandora Directive, they do this thing where they haven't really figured out, because the entire Tex Murphy series takes place in the future. It takes place in this post-apocalyptic San Francisco in 2042, I think it is. And
which is awesome, by the way. And that's another thing games like Gabriel Knight 2 and Tex Murphy had going for them. Awesome settings, awesome stories.
Right, but
you can't just slap full motion video onto every single fucking shitty story out there. You have to really make an effort to make it work.
Really, because that's really what game designers in the 90s thought they could do, just slap fucking FMV on everything. Yeah. Anyway,
Mr. Morgan, hi, my impression is shitty. Okay, back to you.
Yeah, you're terrible at walking still. What I was going for is that because Tex Murphy takes place in this fantastical setting, you can't actually build sets that would look even nearly as good as what they could 3D render at this point. You were still locked off into 3D render backgrounds and green screen effects. So with the Pandora Directive, they kind of figured out how to move the camera, and then they would move the 3D render in the background, and it would sort of mesh up, but not really. Gabriel Knight 2, however, I'm not going to give this a free pass, because what they did with Gabriel Knight 2 was just to fly off to Germany, shoot a bunch of photographic stills, then take them home, and then film the actors on green screen. I suppose it would have taken too much money to actually fly the actors off to Germany. But still,
they totally didn't do that, because one recollection I remember reading of Dean Ericsson's is that all his narration lines in Gabriel Knight 2 were finished in about a day's time. So they literally spent less than 24 hours of recording every single line that has him describing something in the environment. So no, I can't remember. I can't imagine they flew anyone off to Germany.
No, they wouldn't. And also, I also remember reading that all the FMV clips were like 1 or 2 takes, and that's it. Move on to the next one. So that game was really finished on. And also, Gabriel Knight 2 famously has a huge chunk of it cut out, because Jane Jensen was more or less pushed into doing this as an FMV game because, and this is where I would agree with you, marketing assholes saw that FMV games were like this big old thing, so you have to do the sequel as an FMV game.
In defense of the marketing assholes, it was a pretty good game, but this is another plug, and it's a shame that it isn't more widely available. I only own it because Josh Henry was generous enough, one of our friends, for those listening or watching who don't know him. He was kind enough to send me both Gabriel Knight paperbacks. He just stumbled across them, and he sent them to me, and I paid him back in kind by buying him some adventure games on GOG, gifting them to him. And the Gabriel Knight 2 book is brilliant. The Gabriel Knight 1 book, you can kind of tell that you're looking at a game plot turned into a novel, because Gabriel Knight will at one point lie down in the grass and think, what the fuck am I gonna do? And it just hits him. Oh, I gotta. And you can just tell that there is a bit of interaction from the player missing out there. But the Gabriel Knight 2 novel is, from beginning to end, a pretty good thriller. It's a really good book. And it's a shame that it isn't in more wide circulation than it is.
And the reason why they cut out so much is because from chapter 5 to chapter 6, there's this huge ass, like a 20 or 30-minute cutscene that just explains, right, you fell asleep in the Hooper house, and now you're back in Rittersburg. Fuck that. Yeah. Let's just move on with the story. And they had to do that because they kind of ran out of money and time, and they had to fit this game on 6 CDs, and there was already this big sprawling epic. And if Jane had been allowed to do this as a traditional 2D point-and-click adventure, then obviously we would have see more of the story.
But Jane was obviously able to put the missing part in the novel, which is why it's interesting. There are so many motivations and so much background that's just cut out. And if they'd done that game today, even with FMV, it would have been different, because we've been over this once. The dick waving contest again. Storage space was expensive. So you just had to kill your darlings, and once you've done that, you would have to kill some more.
Which is why I'm so impressed with games like the Pandora Directive, and also a game we haven't mentioned yet, the Black Dahlia, which was a Take-Two adventure, which came on 8 CD-ROMs. Can you picture that? 8 fucking CD-ROMs. I
can picture losing them, and it's a very scary scenario indeed.
Oh yeah, but that game is so long, and it has so much. It spans over like several decades and shit like that. And they really went balls out, just trying to squeeze as much, because there are some really freaking puzzles in there. There's a lot of F&B stuff in there, and it's a node-based game, sure, but it's actually quite good if you dig that sort of thing. Anyway, moving hastily on. Because we're already hitting the 45-minute mark, and I have to piss really badly.
Me too. Actually, maybe we should do maybe I should let you talk, and I should go piss, and then you go piss, and I'll talk.
All right, we can do that. Right, so so I have no one to talk to now. All right, so while my colleague is off talking, I'm just gonna briefly talk about. Actually, we might just cut this out of the completed thing, because this is just too fucking stupid. Yeah, so I'm just hi to viewers. I'm just not, cause this is all about the interaction thing. I'm just not gonna sit here and just spew shit into your faces. So really, what I'm gonna do is just sit around here and jiggle until my colleague gets back, and then I'm gonna go take a whiz, and then we're gonna wrap this thing up. What I am going to talk about, though, is what I hope that most of you have tuned into. Listen to or watch is the two of us kind of explaining what a good FMV game should do, what kind of methods work and what don't work, and why why FMV games of the 90s were so adamant to use FMV that they kind of lost sight of actually using it in a productive sense, like Fred was talking about. When you play Gabriel Knight 2, you have all these extraneous clips of him opening desk drawers, shutting desk drawers, standing there looking confused in the camera and such. There's really no reason for all of that. You can kind of decipher that when you click on a drawer, yeah, the main character opens it, and then you get a close up. You don't have to actually see him do that. So one of the things I thought they could have easily done with Gabriel Knight 2 was just cut out all the extraneous bits. They could have fit the game on 3 CDs, and you could actually have the look, dude, I'm totally rambling, and I actually just figured that I would cut this bit out of the. Even though we have this.
We don't do any editing, and you're not.
That's right, we don't. So I'm just gonna leave this in. But right, I was just talking about what we're gonna do after I get back is that we are going to get on with what would make a good FMV game. Why you could cut out all the extraneous bits of Gabriel Knight 2, opening and shutting drawers and looking confused at the camera, and what you can actually do with FMV to make a good FMV game. Use FMV to its strengths rather than just, being a fucking dolt. So I'm just going to nip off for a bit.
What are you talking about, just so I can pick up the thread?
Actually, I was just kind of making a teaser for the things that we were going to talk about when I get back, like kind of the things that you don't need with FMV games, because people were so enamored with chasing the dream. We want to do interactive movies, right? That means that everything has to be a movie, and then clicking around hotspots is kind of secondary, and then you get all this extraneous shit of opening and closing drawers and stuff like that. So take it away, sir.
I think I echo Troll's sentiments in that. I think on paper FMV is a pretty solid idea in that you have actors carrying out shit and you have photorealism, but I think something that speaks against it is that in most cases the technology just wasn't there, and yeah, as I heard him saying as I was making my way back from the toilet, you would have all this kind of extra shit of Gabriel Knight exhaling and looking awkwardly at the character he'd just been conversing with, or looking into a drawer, picking up something. And it in many ways, like the episode we did on 3D, the conclusions we reached in that, it seemed like not many companies knew what they were going to do with this newfangled stuff. Access certainly did, but again, I regard them as the black sheep. Yeah, Gareth on the IRC channel is asking me to go solo. So I'm just gonna sit here in near pitch black darkness, and oh hell, I'm gonna trigger some sound effects because I know you love that. What do we say about Trolls when he's out there pushing, giving it his best? You go, man. We support you. Having your bladder isn't easy. But yeah, you're bound to get a pretty good stream out of there at some point. Yeah. Hey, man. I was uncovering the meaning of life while you were gone, and it's too bad
Oh, that's
you've missed it because I don't remember.
oh, that's fantastic. You know, this is one of those times where I actually miss the old calling you up on the phone days, because I could just pick up the phone, go to the bathroom, keep talking, and you would be none the wiser until I flush the fucking toilet.
Unless you actually start shitting. I'm not sure how good noise reduction is these days, but let's not mess with it.
Not good enough. So just a brief recap. What kind of shit were you spewing?
I was mainly playing sound effects, but I was talking
God.
about a little bit about how FMV is a pretty good idea on paper, but again, like when we talk about 3D, the technology was not always there, and if the technology was there, not all people knew how to use it.
Right, that's actually a very good segue, because one thing I wanted to bring up briefly was that this concept of an interactive movie is what would really, fueled designers of the 90s. They really wanted to make an interactive movie, ostensibly to prove that the medium had some sort of viability beyond being a kid's toy or whatever. So you've got all these companies doing interactive movies, not just in the adventure game genre, but you got stuff like Wing Commander bringing in Mark Hamill and John Rhys-Davies and stuff like that. And then you've got Origin Systems, I got the name right this time, doing stuff like Bioforge, which is an Alone in the Dark type survival horror / adventure kind of thing with polygon characters. But they build this as an interactive movie because it kind of had the cinematic quality to it. So the whole interactive movie thing actually doesn't, in my mind, it's not like a synonym for FMV game. It's actually this sort of we want to tell a story that's more cinematic than just having 2D sprites on a 2D plane walking back and forth talking to each other. We want to show depth. We want to show different camera angles. We want to show something going on. So with that in mind, I would like to propose that using FMV to tell a story these days is not actually as far-fetched as some people. Some people have this idea that FMV games are so passé because they're used to the sort of shit we were fed in the 90s when this thing was still in its complete infancy. And I think this, FMV games were kind of stillborn in a sense, because when they came out, they were just so fucking atrocious. But every type of game is fucking atrocious the first couple of times you do it.
That's
and
true.
Then you got all the knockoffs and such. But you could really have matured this medium into something that was viable and playable and had a good story, and used FMV to tell the story, not to just show the main character opening up a drawer and closing it again. You could totally do that. I'm gonna let you run with that one.
Yeah, you could. I mean, the technology is further, certainly, and we have the benefit of having learned from past mistakes.
Exactly. And a good notion about the technology, because I've spent a lot of time talking about that.
I love the idea that you're going to say, I'm going to let you run with it for about 2 seconds until I start rambling again.
That's the way, because I just want to kind of move you into the sort of thing that I want to talk about. The whole technology thing. You don't need
this whole fucking show is.
you don't need a
backseat designers. It should have been called Trolls Moves Fred into whatever Trolls wants to talk about.
There's a reason I'm named Trolls. That's a silly language joke. Anyway, the thing is that the technology is not really working against us anyway. We're beyond CD-ROMs and their short storage capacity, and having the camera move. I mean, you could pretty much make an FMV game using one of these. I'm holding up my mobile phone here, audio listeners. You could pretty much make an FMV game with this. Just shoot people walking across the lawn talking to each other and shit. You could totally do that. I had an idea for like found footage, the movie. You seen those found footage horror films? Like Blair Witch Project and Paranormal Activity shit. You could totally do an FMV game like that. Just take pictures of your living room and just watch the lamp wobble around and shit. All right, I'm done.
Yeah, I agree. You could do that, and ties in well with what I said about technology. We've come further, and disk storage is generally less expensive. That's saying very little, and video compression doesn't suck as much. And everybody has got a pretty decent quality camcorder in their phone. So everyone and their mother has got a pretty decent quality camcorder in their phone. So yeah, you could do that. You could. I don't get why FMV hasn't got a renaissance, because VGA point and click has gotten a resurgence, because oh, it's the good old days. We remember it fondly. Oh,
Yeah, exactly.
Why the fuck doesn't FMV games, get this kind of? I guess it's because, and this will be a nice segue. Do I look like Steve Wozniak to you? Yes, I do. This will be a nice segue into the next segment, which I suppose is going to be, did FMV kill adventure games? And I would say no, they're a different flavor of it. But to many old timers who are, God bless them, very, very conservative, yeah, then FMV totally did kill adventure games. And we're never going to forgive it, and we're never going to revisit it, and we're never going to even remotely look at the opportunities that are to be had with this format. I'm just going to curse.
I'm totally agreeing with you, because what the found footage genre did for horror movies and such, you could totally have that sort of resurgence with FMV games now, because like you say, everyone and their mother have a good camera on their phone, and basically you can just sit down with AGS and do an FMV game. The problem was that we're still sort of traumatized by what FMV games did to us back in the 90s, with all the terrible acting and with all the terrible puzzles, and people actually forgetting to put in puzzles. Hi, Phantasmagoria 2. It just left such a sour taste in our mouth that every time someone says FMV, the entire adventure game community just goes, oh, fuck that, I'm not going anywhere near it.
But in many ways, I think one of the gripes I have with the adventure game community, and I've brought up this before in relation to the new King's Quest game, is that we are generally very unforgiving. And adventure games way back when, in ye olden days, that we always like rambling about, we're pushing technological boundaries. And, we're not gonna, I don't think the genre is in a rut per se, but I will concede that very few new things have happened to it in the interim. So, if we want this shit to pick up and we want the adventure genre to actually be the bee's knees again, we have to be more welcoming and embrace new technology, certainly, but also revisiting old technology that didn't necessarily work during the first pass.
No, because it was in its infancy. It
was.
For my money, FMV. I was gonna say FMV never really got the chance it deserved. It kind of did, because it went on for like a decade, and it just kept sucking. But that's because people were blindsided by the idea that you could put movies on CDs, and that would be enough to entertain us. And it turns out it wasn't.
If I may, something interesting Gareth is pointing out on the IRC channel is that with Unity, you could probably make some pretty interesting 3D environments where you would have seamless integration with FMV. And again, Access or Big Finish. That's what Tesla Effect did. Tesla Effect is a Unity game, I think.
Yes.
And
yes,
they actually had pretty seamless integration, as seamless as FMV games would ever get.
Yeah, and the thing about once we got over the 3D fad, once we got over the FMV fad, sorry, we went into the 3D fad, where we thought that everything was going to be 3D, and then we were sort of waiting for 3D to become viable and sort of photorealistic, which is a point that we're at now. But now it turns out that doing a 3D game actually requires so much effort and so many talented minds that doing something that even looks remotely playable and fantastic and such, it requires a huge team and a huge budget. But you could do FMV games now on a shoestring budget, using no more than your camera phone and AGS, if that's what you wanted to do. And you could, I would love to see this sort of the sort of underground kind of like kids in the 90s with their VHS cameras doing like little movies in their backyards. I want to see this kind of resurgence done with computer games, like kids in their backyards doing movies but making them interactive. You could totally do that.
Yeah, you could. And why don't we? Because we're conservative, that's what.
Yeah, and also because FMV is kind of a don't want to touch it kind of word.
And because it's actually all about ethics in games journalism.
That's a threefer, and I haven't even gotten one in. I mean, shit. I'm not even sure what to add at this point. I would love my final word on this. I would love to see someone actually sit down and do a proper FMV game. And I don't mean like I mean just take out all the bits that didn't work, and we know they didn't work. And just use it to tell a story. And I know this is one thing we didn't get around to, and we probably don't have time to get around to it. But it's the thing is that an FMV sequence, a video sequence, is non-interactive. So the player is not in control. So you would of course have to have playable elements in that. You can do that with still photography. You can do that with node-based gaming. You can do whatever. You could do the Police Quest 4 thing with the character sprites, photorealistic sprites moving across a photo and stuff like that. And just use the FMV to tell the cutscenes bit, stuff that Maniac Mansion pioneered and was lauded for. Having these non-interactive cutscenes like it's a little movie. Maniac Mansion didn't have people opening and shutting drawers and looking confused into the camera and such. You could totally do that.
Yeah.
That's my thing. I want a fucking resurgence.
I don't think FMV killed adventure games. I think adventure games have killed FMV, and adventure games should be fucking ashamed.
Exactly. It's a viable way of telling a story.
It is.
So that's. Yeah.
And
there you go.
Bombshell, it's time to finish off with the closing remarks. We have a little spiel to do, but before we get to the spiel, I'm going to do something we're contractually obliged to do, which is to thank our $8 Patreon backer, Mr. Steven Alexander of Infamous Quests. And I'm going to go one step further. Steven is a sweetheart, and he deserves all the love he can get. His team over at Infamous Quest are currently doing a Kickstarter of two different games. One is called Order of the Thorn. The second one, I believe, is called Rome to Ruin. They both take place in the same universe that Quest for Infamy took place in. So if you liked Quest for Infamy, I can pronounce infamy. If you liked Quest for Infamy, go back his games.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you, Steven.
Steven, you're totally bodacious, dude, and I think you're totally gnarly, and I just want to hang 10 with you, and I'm running out of 90s lingo here.
Boy, you're a girl. This is gonna make someone
I will hop on a train and bitch slap you. I'm just going to do the spiel real quick. Pretty much all you should do is just go to backseatdesigners.com, because that's where you will find the links to the audio broadcast, which you can subscribe to on iTunes and Stitcher Radio and via RSS. You can also find our link to our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/backseatdesigners, where you can view the video episodes, and also the BSD plays, which is me and Fred drunkenly playing a game that we either like or dislike or have no idea how to play. We also have a Patreon that you can throw your hard-earned money at us if you have nothing else to use it for, which is on patreon.com/backseatdesigners. We also have an IRC channel that you can hop on and talk to us either during the show, which we have demonstrated so ably during this episode, or you can just hop on there and talk to us whenever. To find that, just go to backseatdesigners.com and click on IRC channel, or lastly, you can check us out on Facebook, our Facebook open group, which is facebook.com/groups/backseatdesigners, or on Twitter @BSDesigners. Did I leave anything out?
I don't believe you did, no. That was pretty good.
Thank you. I've been practicing. So until next week, this was a very special, over an hour, actually. Jesus Christ, what are we fucking doing?
I don't know, but we did that way back when in the phone days, so it doesn't surprise me.
No, still. So anyway, me and my fabulous hats would like to, wish you a very good weekend with lots of game dev. Fred and I are doing not one, but two, but three adventure games for Adventure Jam. No, wait, you're not doing one, are you? On your own?
I'm not doing one on my own. No, I'm participating in one with a couple of lovely people. I would mention which team I'm on. You know, which people are in the team, but this thing would just explode with all.
Right. So Fred and I are on the same team for that one, and I'm also doing a singular thing, which is you'll just have to tune in and find out, because on this,
it's you're kind of doing a photorealistic game in the EGA realm, aren't you?
It's kind of your mind is going to be blown. This is going to be the best looking C64 game you've ever seen.
Nice.
So anyway, check back on the 17th. That's when the Adventure Game Jam ends, and go and vote for people that you think have done a good job, which would mean.
But we know they all will, so it's going to be incredibly difficult. But we're going to leave that up to you.
Right. Right. Until next week, thank you for joining us for this long-ass episode. Please feel free to leave your comments about how much you think FMV sucked, and what they should do better. And please go out and do your own. I mean, AGS is so fucking simple. You have a fucking camera phone. Everyone has a fucking camera phone. Go out and make your own fucking FMV game, please.
I agree.
Show the world wrong.
This is the beta male signing off. Live long and bugger off.
See you next week, man.
See ya.
No more for today.